So, there's been a lot of conversations about data centers. You're hearing about Meta building one, Tesla, and there's so many data centers that are currently under construction, and there are more demands coming out from tech companies requiring that data centers need to be built. What does that mean for us? Well, you can invest directly in a data center, but it's going to cost you a penny or two. Now, we're not talking about small data centers here. In today's video, I'm just going to break down how you can navigate the companies that are going to benefit from this story of this mad expansion of data centers. It's clear as day that AI requires power. It's not intelligence. The intelligence comes from the power that it's able to process to work out whatever it needs to work out and be AI. And what we're going to do now is go into a number of stocks that you can go and check out for yourself that I believe are going to see the benefit of this mad expansion that's happening in the AI market. So you've had the idea already with NVIDIA, with their graphics cards on gaming and what have you. Now they're diving into humanoid robotics, data centers. They're talking about creating quantum computing, fast computers. They're doing everything that they can, but it's creating a ripple effect because it's not just one company that can do it. You're going to need more participants just so that you can get this whole story of AI and these data centers and the power to function it. Because with more power that we've got, the better the intelligence. And that's the truth. So let's get with the program, ladies and gentlemen, and break it all down. So to break it down, the story right now with data centers is this. You've got OpenAI going to the US government and saying, hurry up, we need you to make this 100 gigawatt factory so that we can create data centers to service and challenge Chinese in the AI race. As it stands, according to the Kabasi letter, it says here that the US has 5,426 data centers, and that's more than everyone else combined, even China. Scroll down a little bit, and this guy has a point. It says here, our lack of new power generation is the biggest threat to our country by a very wide margin. 2025, China will have 43 nuclear power plants under construction. The USA has 0 under construction and 0 planned. It says here, and he asked ChatGPT, how many nuclear power plants are going to be built in China in the next 10 years compared to the USA? China is going to have 70 reactors. The USA is going to have 5 reactors by 2035. It has 0 under construction or planned. Well, how are they going to sustain it? Now, even with this information here, the thing that you got to keep in your mind is, what's the commodity? It's not the data centers. No, it's not AI. It's the power. The power that is used to service this. As I said, you got more power, you got more intelligence. Check this out. In front of you, I'm going to be talking about a list of stocks that are related to energy that, in my opinion, I believe are going to benefit from this rush to get data centers serviced and processing as much information as possible just so that they can close the gap between China and US in the race for AI. In front of you is a company called NuScale Power, designs and develops small nuclear modular reactor technology. All right. Nuclear power is where it's at in terms of servicing these mad factories that they are building. Okay. This company started to wake up a little bit, trading at $43 a share. $12 billion market cap. You can appreciate you've got an increase of fund owners coming into play in the last quarter of 2025. So there is a lot of interest in these companies. This is a long-term play, ladies and gentlemen. You have to understand, we've got to build these data centers, all right? And then comes the servicing of it. And that's where companies like NuScale Power come into play. Do your due diligence, go and investigate what's going on their company, what's happening in the books later on in the year, what partnerships are they getting involved in, which leads us to other companies as well. Fluence Energy, another company that provides energy storage products, services, and digital applications for renewables and storage applications. So it's an alternative energy company, all right? Not traded so long. It's not an old company. But you can see it's doing relatively well. Back on the idea of AI, it seems to be doing all good. And it's going to be another one that benefits from this rush with the creation of data centers and the servicing of them. Okay. You got another company which you should be familiar with is Constellation Energy. This is Warren Buffett's stock. He's involved in this bad boy. This provides power, natural gas, renewable energy, and energy management products and services in the US of A. Currently priced at $382 a share, and you can see it's just not stopped. It's just been a nice retrace, rise up. They've been bidding and picking it all up. Any of the drops down have been met with very limited pressure, and you can see, look at all this accumulation over here on the daily, on the weekly, like for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, nearly 8 weeks, 2 months of just not stopped going up. Accumulation. Why? Because that's where it's all going. Power is now the new commodity, ladies and gentlemen. Dare I say it's Bitcoin, but anyway, that's another story. Got another company here called Talon Energy. These guys own and operate power infrastructure in the USA, located in the mid-Atlantic, Montana, and New England. Look at all these stocks. They're energy-related stocks, energy related to the idea of data centers, okay? Now, going up again, we've got some more companies for you. I've got the flavor for you. You've got this company right here. Where is it? BWX Technologies. So this company manufacturer of power generation systems and nuclear components for U.S. government, industrial, and utility. Very strong chance that these guys are going to be getting involved if they do listen, or the US government does listen to OpenAI in its demand for this gigawatt factory, okay? Now, do you just simply go out and buy these stocks in the hope that, yeah, everything's just going to happen for you and they're just going to keep on pumping up? Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to appreciate we are in an easing cycle. Money is going to get cheaper. So it's going to be easier for these companies to start borrowing money and putting that money to work in whatever endeavor it is that they specialize in. What I'm going to give you now is just a breakdown on what you need to look for when it comes to investing in certain stocks. Check this out. Here is an example, BWX Technologies, relatively decently priced in my opinion. Currently has a volume or market cap of 19 billion. That's the first thing you've got to look for. Does it have a good market cap? Is it prone to big, wide price swings other than the ones that are really for good news or even for bad news? You can see, this is the weekly, it's doing relatively well, okay? Now, when we go into all this information over here, one thing to look at is its earnings per share. And you can see that from 2024 going through to 2026, there is an increase in the earnings per share. So for every share that you hold by 2026, it's estimated that you will earn $4.06 dividend for every share that you hold when you're invested in BWX. Now, this is where if you are a long-term investor, you're going to be paying attention to the weekly chart. All right, because that's where you really want to be prioritizing. You're not looking for little intraday movements. You're focused on the bigger picture. So what you're doing here is you're taking the idea of sentiment behind what's going on in terms of optimism from investors. We've got an easing cycle. And then you look at the idea of what's going on in the sector, in the industry, what is happening, and the demand for alternative sources of energy to service the idea of data centers. Companies like BWX are something that you want to try and get involved in and think that it's going to be the benefit of. Already, manufacturer of power generation systems for US government, industrial, and utility. So if we go back to the idea of what the OpenAI had said, if I just go back here, it's there. OpenAI submitted a memo to the White House on October the 27th, advocating for a national initiative to build 100 gigawatts of new energy capacity each year to address an electron gap with China. Okay? So it would only make sense that if this company provides that service, US government is more than likely going to communicate with these guys. So we've identified that if we look at the market cap, if it's in the billions, then it does show you that there is institutional backing. Now we get into something more interesting. In front of you is obviously BWX Technologies. Now look at the bottom here. You can see that we've got its quarterly results, and we can see that we have got an effective acceleration happening in its quarterly earnings. Start from December 31st, you can see that it was minus 9% on its earnings. If you look to the right, it says down there, and then plus 3% on its sales. Doesn't sound too good. Going over into the March 31st quarter 2025, you've got 20% in earnings and plus 13% in its sales. So starting to see some activity. Going into the June quarter 2025, we've seen that they've got 24% earnings and 12% in sales. We're starting to see an acceleration. So now what we need is in 6 days' time. So keep an eye out on this. That's why I'm looking at this, because in 6 days' time, we're going to get the results for this company. If their next results does show an acceleration in earnings and sales, then you're on to a winner, because it's clear as day that there is a demand for this company. Taking that information and going over into the funds that own this stock, you can see here that 743 funds are actively involved in this stock, and they are playing around 58% ownership of the stock itself. So there are a lot of funds that hold a lot of the supply of this stock. That's a win, and that is why you're seeing price of this asset continue to the upside. So you can see that the majority of the stocks that I have included in this video, and I've left you a list right here, there is clear as day expansion happening in these companies with the prospects of more to come. The rush to get data centers created and be able to service the power that it needs to meet to the demands of AI is, in my opinion, the next AI rush. We've had all sorts of partnerships coming into play with regards to OpenAI getting involved with AMD to create chips, and then NVIDIA going elsewhere. All right. And you had this recent one with Microsoft and OpenAI for the value of $135 billion. Money's there, ladies and gentlemen. But data centers is the infrastructure that is required to service all of this stuff regarding AI. So go and do your due diligence. Check out these stocks. Go onto the website. Know when their earnings are going to be released. Have a look at, I mean, you're used to it, but you'll read a white paper for crypto coins. Do the same thing for companies that are listed on the stock market. Go on their website, look at their missions, join their newsletters, and check out when these companies have an announcement to make. Because when you do that, you're then becoming interested in the developments of the company, but you'll be answering a question. Why is everyone else buying it? And why should you? With that being said, guys, mad love and respect, and I'll be tuning into you all tomorrow. Peace.